welcome you back to another episode of Inside Boxing Live, presented by ppv.com. It is Dan Canobio. It is not Chris Algieri. Stepping into his place is Brian Campbell, one half of Morning Combat. You can catch them over on the Morning Combat YouTube page, All the Smoke Fight, CBS Sports Network. Am I leaving out any other gigs that you currently have? Brian Campbell, welcome to the show.
Yeah, there's a few others that I'm trying. I'm just hoping the phone keeps ringing. But great to be back here. I hope to fill Chris's shoes the best I can, but not nearly as handsome and not nearly as aficionado of the old the old guacamole there, the avocado. That man has been an advocate for that, fruit. Vegetable.
I don't know if you've noticed, BC, on this shot right here, my shoulders are getting a little bit wider. That's because Chris Algieri has me on one of his unbelievable workout plans for the last 6 weeks. I saw you in Vegas. You, my friend, are svelte. You are muscular now. You are in shape. So we are all learning something from Chris Algieri, who is on a much-needed vacation somewhere in Europe. He doesn't want us to give us the exact longitude and latitude of where he is.
The main difference between guys like Chris Algieri and guys like me are probably the level of how it goes down in the DMs. To be very frank with you, right? That's
how we end every show. We end every show. Stay out of those DMs. Stay out of those DMs. Algieri's on vacation. He wanted to join the show somehow. He brought his microphone. I said, dude, don't worry about it. Just take it easy. Take it. He's doing pro box. He's doing this.
Yeah.
Take it easy. Take it easy. All right, so this episode is obviously brought to you by ppv.com. It is the leader in online pay-per-view events. No subscriptions. We're never going to ask you for any of that stuff. It's free. It's clear. It is a great way to order the fights. We watched a great fight last weekend in Las Vegas together on ppv.com. That was Gervonta Davis with his big win over Frank Martin. And I kind of want to start in that general weight class, Brian, because that is the weight class. 135 and 140 are kind of ruling boxing right now. Yeah. It's just like every day you put on Twitter or X and you see Ryan Garcia, you see Devin Haney, you see Tank Davis, you see Teofimo Lopez, who's back in action in 1 week. We'll start with the freshest of news. Ryan Garcia has retired from boxing. Did you see that, Brian?
Yeah, I guess I saw that. Wow. Yeah. What's the question here, Dan? Wow.
I just wanted to put that out there that he has now retired. It is coming on the heels or on the brink of him getting finally sentenced in his suspension or drug deal with the New York State Athletic Commission. So he pulls a fast one. He goes, "You can't fire me. I quit." So that's a move from Ryan Garcia. Now Devin Haney just is looking for a fight with Sandor Martin. Top Rank wins that bid for just over $2 million. So that's all swirling around. But we'll start with Ryan Garcia. He's not retiring. He is going to get suspended. I don't think he's going to fight anytime soon. I don't think Devin Haney is going to fight Sandor Martin. It's just what I'm trying to say is this whole saga, Ryan Garcia, Devin Haney, hopefully comes to a close pretty soon because it's getting quite stale.
It's got a little bit more life left. I just wonder how much the current, stretch of disruption that Ryan Garcia is on, the character, if you will, that he's playing it way more aggressive than I assumed he would, even coming off of the craziness that was that Haney fight. Look, I think we still need to see that rematch, not just for the big money possibility and the, vitriol between the two, but we need to see it on somewhat even terms here without the presence of this drug test, Ryan missing weight purposely, and everything else that went into him becoming the Joker of boxing. But I will give him one piece of credit within largely an area of mystery or criticism from me on his behavior. He has trained the boxing public in a very short period to look at him as a villain, to look at him as the Joker, if you will, of this current space. And when you get the public to accept that, I think they're also quicker to accept your missteps. I mean, it may help that Ryan has sort of taken a full-on Dana White approach attacking this truth as basically just being like, look, it never happened, guys. So, they're framing me, right? I mean, it's easy to say, but I think he has so well established himself as a villain right now, from the recent social media attacks against Clarissa Shields to, what happened with Caleb Plant in Vegas on Saturday night, that we're not really talking about how long is he going to be out? How long should he be out? We're really talking about how quickly can we get him back in there, because he is stirring up shit really on a level we haven't seen since second half Tyson. I mean, this is getting a
Wow.
little bit weird and crazy. I'm not saying he's on that level as a fighter or even a draw, but he is this wild card of this division. And I think as soon as that suspension's over, yeah, he's going to line back up and swing big and call out the big names.
No, I couldn't agree with you more. It's nice to get like a different perspective on the show because we talked about this ad nauseum. It's almost avoided Ryan Garcia news for a while on the show because it's just we don't believe it. It moves too fast. He's his own news cycle. But I 100% agree with you that this has been the case with boxing fans for a long time. They crucify some fighters for PED use, and they give other fighters a pass.
Right.
I see more people giving Ryan Garcia a pass because he has built this rabid fan base. He has now connected with the far right, the wild conspiracy theory people out there, to save the children crowd, which I still don't know exactly what that entails. But he has, for lack of a better analogy here, has implemented like a Trump approach where I'm just going to throw so much stuff out there. I'm going to throw so much information. I'm going to throw so much misinformation. I'm just going to throw everything out that I can out there to the point where it's almost like, oh, I'm just going to sit back and watch this show. Like, I'm going to sit back and watch this. And in boxing, I would say we have a lot of characters. Are there as many characters as in the sport as we had in our heyday? No. But Ryan Garcia is providing that Mike Tyson level of chaos. And fight fans enjoy chaos. Fight fans thrive in chaos. This is why we watch the sport because, yeah, the two guys, grown men fighting each other, but it's also for this stuff outside of the ring. And Ryan Garcia is providing some type of reality show.
It's a thin line, though, Dan. It's a thin line between when it goes too far, and I certainly think the escalation with the Caleb Plant incident is you're asking it to go too far if you're Team Ryan Garcia in a fight that like doesn't even really make sense in a ring, right? They're 4 divisions apart. But I also think, there becomes that what we used to call X-Pac heat in 90s pro wrestling, right? There comes a point where we know he's playing a character. We're sick of this freaking character. And if the recent character turn happens to really jab you in your protective spot and make you upset, and he seems to attack every group purposely in a way that it would, at some point there is that go home, he go away, get away, but he's not quite there yet. And man, he seems to know what that younger YouTube generation wants to see out of him. And boy, does he deliver it. I mean, I'm too old to really have a say in this, Dan, outside of like, what are these kids doing these days? But at the same time, get off my lawn, Rye guy.
Exactly. Simultaneous there. Same for me. But it's like, I was about to say that he's towing a line here. It's becoming too much. Like the stuff with Caleb Plant, I thought went too far. Caleb Plant is respected by pretty much every boxing fan, which is a really hard thing to do because he has stepped into the ring with Canelo and went out on his shield, stepped in the ring with Benavidez. He gives it a quote-unquote go. And that guy has a great Q rating in the boxing world. So if you're going to come at him, you're going to come at his wife. And then and Caleb's going to handle it. He's going to try to handle it. He's going to try to go after Ryan Garcia, who does have a lot of enemies out there too. There isn't just everyone on his side. There's a lot of boxing fans that are tired of it. Just to wrap it all up, there's going to be a ruling this week from the New York State Athletic Commission. I'd be shocked if it wasn't a 6 month or a 1 year. Usually it's 6 months, which means nothing. Like we talked to Errol Spence this past week. He was in Vegas doing the rounds, and one reporter asked him, like, what should Ryan Garcia get? And he's like, well, he's probably going to get 6 months, but like, I fight every 8 months. I fight every year. Like 6 months means nothing in the boxing world, especially in today's age. But I think we get a resolution on this. Another thing, too, I want to get your thoughts on. Devin Haney, in all of this, somehow is the butt of these jokes, which I don't quite understand in the boxing world, too, how this works. A guy that has fought everyone who should have the respect, like a Caleb Plant does, because Devin Haney has stepped into the ring with pretty much all comers at age 25. He goes the distance with a guy who missed weight on purpose. Goes the distance with a guy that was on PEDs, whether he took them on purpose or not. It was clear that Ryan Garcia was close to 170 on fight night. Got up off the canvas, went the distance, didn't make that many excuses, yet I see him getting memed to death. I see him the butt of these jokes. It just doesn't make sense. Like, Devin Haney deserves a lot more praise.
He does. He does. He does. I mean, when we every time one of these 4/5 princes, right, this young group of guys we're talking about in and around of 140 pounds who are really the future of the sport, we're always trying to reorder and rank them. And it's like before that Ryan Garcia loss, you wouldn't have been like wrong if you argued Haney as number one from what he has accomplished, from the poise he has shown. but that was a really bad loss. Now, it came with extra circumstances that I think are certainly, you can make excuses for. Ryan's behavior, the drug test, everything, missing weight on purpose. But there were some elements of it, meaning Haney's reaction, that people didn't like. And I guess I get it. There was a lot of victim framing of, and it's not like it's wrong, the things he's saying about Ryan Garcia, but I don't think people want to hear him and Bill Haney necessarily say, yeah, which they're saying now, hey, we'll sit out for 2 years and then we'll be back to rematch Ryan on the end of it. You're not. You're going to be looking for a big fight. I think they have a little egg on their face, whether it's deserved or not, by sticking to trying to be a free agent for Eddie Hearn and Matchroom, not even making a bid at all for the Sandor Martin fight, which allowed it to come in at such a cheap price with Top Rank stealing it. You saw Haney's reaction on Twitter. He is a free agent. There are benefits with that, and there are certainly times when you have to lean on that, and I think they have to lean on that right now. But in my opinion, still one of the 15 best boxers on this planet. I really want to see how he bounces back. Overall, has the criticism been heavy-handed? Yeah. Unfortunately, that's boxing Twitter. It went from the barbershops now to the Twitter space. But I think also, like, whether it's boxing or MMA, there's like this toxic culture of trash talk and criticism going on right now that goes beyond just, us who have to have an opinion. That's literally our job, to have critical opinions here. So we're going to always critique, as any media base would. But I think when you add in now the power that the athletes are finally starting to realize with their own voice, them social media streets are pretty toxic. I want to see how Haney bounces back, obviously physically, but mentally, because it was that advanced poise that got him to where he is today. Whether you thought he beat Loma or not, just the backbone and maturity that he showed in stepping in there and doing that was like, yeah, damn right. This guy is a future all-time great. That doesn't go away with one loss by any means, even though I'm still shocked he was unable to pick up the speed and placement of that left hook. Man, he fought, bit down on the gum shield, got back up, and really, nearly backdoored sort of like an interesting decision there. So I think he does bounce back, but this is the criticism you have to walk into when you're going to fight a guy like Ryan, and when you're going to be a young star right now on these Twitter streets where it gets dangerous, Dan. You got to be careful. Man. Okay, Glazer's out there. You got to be careful, right?
Rick Glazer, good God. I know you're saying with Haney, I think he's in such an interesting spot because we're only like 2 months removed from that fight. And that was a fight where he took such a massive beating where I was like, all right, even Algieri would say like he should take some serious time off. And he's already talking about a Sandor Martin fight. Whether that happens in December, I think would still be too soon for Devin Haney. But you're right. When you're a free agent, there's a lot of perks that come along with it, but there are a lot of pitfalls and there are a lot of things. But you need a big time promoter behind you with the purse bid coming up there, being number one, and now him not knowing exactly what he wants to do, not having a rematch clause in this Ryan Garcia fight, and not having more penalties for Ryan Garcia. I don't want to go backpedal too much on that fight, but it's interesting because it's all coming into play right now because Ryan is going to get suspended most likely. Devin Haney is looking for his next fight. There's rumors of him going up to 147. Mario Barrios right now is like the guy that everyone just wants to fight because they see holes in his game because he has an elevated title at 147. If you're Mario Barrios, you're like, oh my God, I got Manny Pacquiao potentially coming out of retirement to want to fight me. And now Devin Haney might come up to 147. So Haney has a lot of options right now. He could wait, like he said, like 2 years, which I don't think he's going to do. I don't think Sandor Martin is a good bounce-back fight for him. He is a tricky piece at 140. No one looks good fighting Sandor Martin, but he isn't the hardest puncher. Like a Teofimo fight, which I'm seeing being gently floated out there. I understand
Can I raise my hand here? Can I offer something that no one's saying for Ryan or Haney? Who's the best opponent for Ryan or Haney coming back? Rolando Romero, guys. It is what it is. It can be a pay-per-view. You got your dance partner, but if you believe in your technique, which Haney certainly does, you can dissect that problem. That looks great because you want to bounce back in boxing. You want to stay active enough where you're allowed sort of a comeback get well fight. But that comeback get well fight could be on pay-per-view against a guy that I think, you can find your spots. People have proven that. You can do that. Yeah, although let's not go any further without saying Rolly, comedic genius, does not get the credit, will age like a fine wine. Many years to come, we'll look back and we'll be like, man, that guy, he knew what he was doing.
You're talking about him outside the ring or his in-the-ring skills?
Oh, I'm talking about outside the ring. Comedic genius.
He is. He is another guy that went out swinging. That's interesting. Romero would be an interesting puzzle piece. Haney's not, they know what they're doing. They're going to calculate this the right way. I don't think it's going to be Sander Martin, so maybe he gives up a belt there. He tweeted out, I already got all the belts. It's interesting. What did you make of Tank? What did you make of Tank's performance? Obviously, gets another knockout. You were in Vegas. What are your biggest takeaways from Tank in the ring and outside the ring?
Well, you really wanted to see here with the longest layoff of his career at 14 months, coming off of the jail sentence, which always brings this narrative, of will he mature now outside the ring so he can fulfill his insane promise inside of it, both commercially and critically. I think this fight was about the critical side of it because, I talked up Frank Martin's live dog status all week and I believed in it. I believed in the tape, the pedigree, who he is as a fighter. But what we saw in Tank was it wasn't just the layoff and everything I just said. And then you add in that Floyd beef and all that came with that. And it was suddenly a soap opera. But like Floyd, what we've come to learn about Tank is love him or hate him. And it is that juxtaposition between the headlines you see outside the ring and the fact that when you do interview him, you go, damn, this guy's charming and you want to root for him. Yeah. Is ultimately, he seems to thrive inside the ring like Floyd, especially when things outside the ring are crazy. And that is a special skill. And that doesn't excuse things, but it shows you what he's truly all about when it comes to fighting. And in the ease, once he made the adjustments, the ease in which he shook off a rusty start, self-proclaimed rusty start, and was able to bully Frank Martin, take away his jab, back him up with just the threat of the high guard and the power. But then, great family, CompuBox, love myself some Kenobios, 53% of his power shots, which is absurd. 44% of his punches overall. This guy has long been, in my opinion, skills-wise, a top 10 pound-for-pound member. It has taken people a lot of time to actually give him the votes because of the criticism of the level of fights, which I think is also still an argument. But if you heard him after this Frank Martin win, he says he only wants champions, unifications, big-time fights from here on out. At 29, it's his window now to find out how great he can be. And I'm still here to tell you that we have no idea how great he can be because he's got the fallback boxing ability when the one punch won't get him out of it. But it's the fact that he never wastes punches, that he always is putting together this spider web that once Frank Martin got caught in it, he had no other move but to back into the ropes, settle in, and be a pinata. And at this level, that's pretty wild. That shows me the brilliance of who Tank is as a fighter.
Yeah, I saw maturity in every sense with Tank. I didn't spend too much time with him early interviewing him here and there, but I was able to talk to him during fight week. And you're right, he is a very charming guy when you can just sit there and talk to him. I think he's very relatable. I think he's very funny. I think he's starting to understand who he is now, age 29. He even said himself, I'm maturing at the interview with Jim Gray before the fight. It's a lot of what he said in the lead up. I'm about to be 30. I've been to jail. I've been in a lot of issues. If he wasn't boxing, he'd be a veterinarian, Brian. I got that out of him.
That was great. You have a connection. You're a Tank whisperer, Dan, okay? You understand what that man is all about underneath it.
I was not expecting veterinarian. That threw me for a loop, but in those situations, you have to just roll with it. That's just who he is.
Would you say this, though, Dan, if I can interject quickly on this topic? Would you,
Sure.
I host a show for a living, so I'm stepping all over you. I apologize for that.
Please. You're the guest. You're the 15-time guest, bro.
I know. Where's my gold jacket? Would you say that we do have to recognize that there had been criticism for a long time of who he was fighting, although I think sometimes that is overblown. But it's almost as if the combination of Saudi Arabia's arrival, which now makes any fight possible to make. Mm-hmm. I think mixed with the fact that PBC does have pressure on them in this current Amazon deal to try to maintain the status they had just last year, right? As essentially the leader in boxing with the Showtime deal, that it may conspire perfectly where not only is Tank saying publicly he wants now to only fight big names, he might have to, right? He might have to.
Oh, he has to. This is the plan.
It's not only the plan all along, but he has to, though. It's that time. The business is saying, bring your best to the table. So that's great for boxing fans right now.
No, I agree. I think boxing is not a copycat sport, but it's a sport of like momentum. It's a sport of trends. And if you're a big time fighter right now, Gervonta Davis, 100% is a big time fighter. He's arguably the face of U.S. boxing. And you're not looking for the biggest fight you could possibly make right now. You're not looking for the biggest amount of money you could possibly make. You're not looking for the best in your division. You're going to get lost in the shuffle. We're seeing it in almost every weight class. Is it because of Saudi Arabia? Yes. Is it because of this big fight movement that we saw before Saudi Arabia really had a footprint on the sport? Yes, it's a combination of a lot of things, Brian, and I agree. The time is now. Like, that's the sense that I got. The biggest takeaway I got from Gervonta Davis outside of the ring, besides him looking spectacular in there and stalking Frank Martin and getting another highlight reel knockout, was that I feel like he's going to get moved now. I feel like the time is now. We're going to see him with a Lomachenko. We're going to see him flirting with Teofimo fights. We potentially see a Ryan Garcia rematch down the line. I think it's just one big fight after the next. Will he come out on top? It's going to be interesting. And that brings me to my next topic, is the Lomachenko fight. I'm a little skeptical at the ease at which Bob Arum is walking around with this. He's just like, yeah, we're going to talk to him this week and it's going to get made. It's like, all right, Bob, like, where's the other, what's the trick here? Like, what do we got? What's the other part of this equation? Because it sounds too smooth right now. But maybe, PBC needs to make this fight. It will be on the PBC side, I believe. I think it's the perfect time for this fight. Obviously, it's a little too late, but Lomachenko still could carve up Gervonta Davis in there. He still has boxing skills. And Gervonta Davis can do something that's never been done to Lomachenko. He can erase Lomachenko. The vision of Lomachenko on the canvas, the amount of haters that guy has. This fight has literally everything. Put it in December in Vegas. I think that is a home run type of fight. I do think we get that fight. How are you feeling about a Tank Lomachenko fight?
I think it's the clubhouse leader. I think the real hardcore boxing fan in me would make an argument that I'd rather see Shakur right now. But I think the reason why we do see Lomachenko next, beyond just hearing Grandpa be that excited, is because everybody needs it, everybody wants it, and everybody wins because of it. If you're Lomachenko, the goal remains to become undisputed champion. There's no reason to go up in weight. He's already, operating over his head. He wants all the belts. He wants all the smoke. He always has. Remember, he wanted to fight for a title in his pro debut. So it's perfect where he is in this resurgent window right now, where he hopefully has learned what went wrong in the close losses to Teo and Haney. Teo wider on the scorecards in terms of numbers, but close in terms of where we thought they were at the time. And then for Gervonta, it's like, yeah, these are the type of critical wins. Yes, people will say he's too old if you beat Loma. There's no question, because people are haters. But these are the names you need right there. It works for PBC. It probably works for Top Rank as well in terms of what side of the deal they'll get, and the idea that could this fight be big enough for both companies to really be involved, ESPN Plus and Amazon Prime. I think we've seen evidence lately that that's the future. That's where this is going, where you'll see more involvement out of that, sometimes for survival purposes too. I mean, do we look back on DAZN playing the role they did in Tank versus Ryan and being willing to allow that to happen? In a lot of ways, to be fair, along with Saudi Arabia, along with everything else, Ryan Garcia's willingness to push the old doors down, to move back the fences and say, no, I'm the fighter. You guys figure it out broadcasting wise. Yeah. May have put us to where we are today. So I do think it's a perfect fight for everybody. I do think, though, the Ryan rematch, and because of how big it is, I do think at any time that fight could just fall back in. Now, it can't fall back in with Ryan's likely suspension coming, but as soon as Ryan's clear, as much as he's got a big rematch possibility with Haney, I just still think that is perfect for everybody involved, where they would still want that. It's crazy. There's very few B-sides for Tank that can be that wild, Ryan, that can bring that in, that I don't know if he's fighting Tito. You say automatically that he wants Teofimo. To me, Teofimo, Tank. To me, Teofimo is, he's got the size, the power, and the explosiveness together. That's a difficult equation. That's a wild card.
I like Teo Tank. I like Teo Tank because Teofimo is just big enough for 140. He's not going to 147. If he does, I don't think he's going to have the same success that he's had at 135. And I think at 140, he's not having the same success in terms of his power. He's settling into 140. But you look at the size of Gervonta Davis, being around him all week, seeing him at CVS eating SpongeBob ice cream. He's 133 pounds, bro. Like, he came in under 130. He is a legitimate lightweight. Lomachenko, I feel like, is a legitimate lightweight. That's why that fight makes sense. Like, I believe Ryan Garcia is obviously too big for Gervonta Davis. I believe Devin Haney is too big for Gervonta Davis. Teofimo is like perfect fight. Tank versus Teo would be explosive, would be
It would be?
fireworks, would be an amazing promotion.
I'm just saying I have the smallest amount of confidence that we would get that.
No, yeah, it's just a wild card too. Like why aren't they floating out Teofimo? Because maybe because he's at 140 and they want to Top Rank wants to finally cash out on Lomachenko. But a Lomachenko Tank fight inside of the ring, I think, is so intriguing. It's intriguing outside of the ring because these are two big personalities and it's bringing together two fan bases. But inside of the ring, like Lomachenko can't start slow. We can't have a staring contest between Loma and Tank for the first 6 rounds where they're not throwing any punches. If Lomachenko comes out and he uses his angles and he boxes like he did in some of his last fights, he could bank some rounds early, which is crazy to say because that's just not really Lomachenko's game. But if he decides to turn on that motor quick, Tank has shown, like he even told me in one of these interviews we did, I'm really looking to up my volume. I'm really looking to up my punch volume because it's in the 20s, it's in the 30s sometimes. But he just simply doesn't. Like until I see it, I'm not going to believe that from Tank. He was getting touched up by Frank Martin. Martin landed 30% of his total punches. That's the highest ever on a Gervonta Davis opponent. It wasn't a perfect performance by Tank. Was he letting Frank mark him up? No, he was just in a fight and he was getting hit. So Frank Martin, who is a very good boxer, but Lomachenko's levels above Frank Martin. This is a competitive fight, even if it is 5-6 years too late. And then you throw in the fact that Tank could just absolutely erase Lomachenko at any moment. That's the reason why you tune into Tank fights, because he's walking that tightrope and then, boom, he detonates the bomb. This fight is perfect. Like, it's the perfect fight for right now. I'm optimistic, but as you know, Brian, we're boxing fans. You have to be cautiously optimistic about it.
I'm going to be aggressively optimistic because if you want to talk turkey with me on El Sheik, Boxing Santa Claus is here. I don't know for how long. I don't know if it's for, the best of the sport or only for the good or 50-50 or whatever, but I believe at this moment any fight can be made. And I've never had that feeling before, Dan, except for playing
the turkey's got
Fight Night on EA
fight.
Sports back in 05 with Winky Wright all the time, with B-Hop.
No, we're an undisputed house, bro. We're an undisputed household here.
I gotta taste the pudding before I believe that the proof is in it. All right.
No, Grish, it's coming, bro. We're CompuBox we're on board. You're gonna see it in stores soon. Grisham tells me it's coming. Undisputed is on the way. But Turkey's got nothing to do with the Tank Lomachenko fight. What do you mean, Turkey?
No, in that case, probably not. I just mean the turkey effect, meaning like what? Give me 2 guys that won't work together right now.
No, it's amazing.
If Saudi's involved and they're all putting, to hear Dave, when I interviewed David Benavidez during Fight Week, to hear him say to me, Al Heyman, and Louis DeCubas Jr. are ready to talk with Turkey at any point and work with them. When you say that out loud, that's getting the boxing fan within this old guy fired up. All right.
Same here. Like, why wouldn't you talk to them? They're out there and they're willing, and it's a great time as a boxing fan. But as someone, like you said, that makes opinions on the sport for a living, it's a little overwhelming because we are programmed as opinion makers to be like, oh, that fight can't happen. That's Top Rank. That's PPC. Let's not even entertain this. Now it's the imagination runs wild. Like any fight could happen. So you almost have to be thinking of every option out there. You have to think of every possible scenario because of Saudi's involvement with boxing. It's a perfect segue. The league. I haven't talked about it on this show yet. People thought I broke the news. I simply copy and pasted a few Reuters screenshots and put it on Twitter. And they're like,
That's
oh,
very
Dan Canobbio.
Michael Benson of you in 2024. I appreciate that.
Benson with 2 N's. I hate that guy, but I do look at his Twitter quite a lot. I'm on board for this. I'm on board for it. I'm on board for it being something that can help the sport. And I don't know the long-term ramifications of it. Do I think that every promotion is going to get scooped up? Obviously not. Do I think consolidating a Matchroom, a Golden Boy, getting them all under one banner and starting this process is a good thing? Absolutely. I know where you stand on this league. Ariel Helwani, who speaks to Turkey Al Sheik, says that, there is some truth to it. There's some inaccuracies, but there's also some truth to it. And there should be a little more clarification on it when we announce the September 21st card next week at a press conference. I know where you stand. I know you are more into it than out on it. I'm intrigued by it because anytime you can bring promoters together, I believe is a good thing, but I do understand the downfalls of it too.
Well, here's what I want to say on it. You have to make the decision for yourself, and there's a lot of things to think about, from the sports washing angle to the idea of, is a monopoly good in boxing when, they had to put in government laws back in the day, the Ali Act, the Boxing Act, all that in previous decades to prevent others who have tried something like this. So, but if those others are the mafia or Don King or some of the other power players through the years that have come in, 2015 Al Heyman, we were talking about the same thing. Will it be a league? Will they create their own titles? I think at the end of the day, I don't necessarily want something that violates protective laws that were put in for a reason. But I think the difference between a UFC monopoly and a boxing one or an MMA monopoly right now is in MMA, the fans win, the UFC's pockets always win, but do the fighters always win? No, they make, between 17 and 19% of UFC's total profit, which, comparative to 50-50 in NBA and NFL, you get the point. I think the difference so far is that Saudi does seem to be fully about the fighters. And if they're being treated like royalty and being paid massive sums, and the amount of promotion put in allows them and the sport around us in general all to be elevated, then we'd be dumb if we weren't all in on the potential of what this boom period could be. But I want to offer you a middle ground if possible, because it does get messy if it's all or nothing. If Saudi comes in and completely owns everybody and we've got a league, I love the idea of downgrading from 17 divisions to 12. I've heard rumors that they might want to have tournaments in each division. I mean, look, does it sound too good to be true? It sounds too great to be true, right? What about a middle ground, Dan, where instead of full ownership of each promotion in one single entity, which does have its problems, how about Saudi Arabia just looms over a new system where we create majors, just like in golf, tennis, horse racing? You look on the calendar where you can still do your matchroom cards in between on your preferred network, your Golden Boy cards, your PBC on Amazon, but 4 times a year or 5, it could be arbitrary, whatever the number is. But imagine it under like a golf major or tennis major. 4 times a year, we're coming together and you're getting the best of boxing. You're getting the best fighters from the best promotions, and the dream matchups are going to be made quarterly. And Turki Al-Sheikh can be heavy-handed in owning that, in my opinion, because he's going to be bringing the money to the table. So it would be up to the promoters to offer their best. But I think that prevents some of the long-term issues that people have with signing away everything, saying, okay, right, Santa Claus is here, take all of our rights, take everything from us. Nobody wants to do that. Dan, can a middle ground work where people that can't even order lunch together come together and really set the stage for an organized sport? Is that what?
Dude, what? I love that. I love that. What I immediately thought of was like WrestleMania, Royal Rumble, Survivor Series. What was the fourth major in wrestling back in the 90s?
SummerSlam, WrestleMania, Survivor Series, and Royal Rumble.
Yeah, we can have that. That is a brilliant idea, Brian. And then with the other fights can be smaller ones. And it also allows the fighter to kind of have some negotiation rights here. Like we don't want to take that away from the fighters. Like right now it is good in Saudi. Like they're getting top dollar to come on these shows. That's because there are other options out there. And Saudi knows like, hey, we want Jared Anderson. So we may have to pay a premium on him because he is technically under the top rank promotion. Maybe he isn't. Those promotional ties now are becoming so skewed now. We have no idea. But point being is like if you have these 4 majors, the biggest names they're gonna want to be on them. But also Saudi knows that too. But also they still have ties to their promotional rights. So there is some negotiating that can still happen. It isn't like the Saudis, this board is going to be like Dana White and be like, all right, you're fighting on 304, you're fighting on 301, you have to. So that does give it some of the boxing side of things. And to go back to a discussion that I've had quite often with MMA fans and just this debate is, you can answer this yourself, being someone that covers MMA. In terms of the fans of boxing love to tout the fighter pay. They love to say, yeah, we're not getting every big fight, but at least our fighters are getting paid. At least they are living well. Whereas MMA fans can say, we're getting the best fights every single week. I necessarily don't care how much these fighters are getting paid. I'm not getting anything close to that. The guy on the average American on his couch saying, I'm not getting that type of money. So it comes down to, what do you look for as a fan? Sure. Are you that excited? Are you that prideful that your favorite fighter is getting fully compensated, but you only see him fight in a big fight once every 2 or 3 years? Or are you on the side of MMA fans where you seem to be getting a big fight on a continuous basis, but in the back of your mind, it's like, all right, this guy's not getting his full what he 100% should be getting. I think if you polled 10 boxing fans, most of them would want to see the biggest fights get made. Is it the most ethical thing? No, but it just is what it is as a sports fan.
Yeah, I mean, like Jim Lampley always says, like anybody who's been around a long time always says, at the end of the day, it's prize fighting. So whoever can offer the biggest prize, inevitably the moths will circle to that light, and that's where we're at. But I think there is a way to offer that biggest prize and please everybody and not completely blow up the structure of boxing as much as we complain about the disorganization of the sport. There does need to be certain levels of fundamental organization. I don't love forced sanctioning bodies. I don't want four to eight champions in every division, but there does need to be some structure in place so it's not just, oh, we've got a new Dana White, only he's running boxing now. Maybe there is a middle ground. I don't know, Dan. We haven't had great success in that, but I'm at the point. Even if it's here for a short time, not a long time, if this Saudi impact gives us 2 crazy awesome years, would you not take that over the unknown of the every other year boxing theory we used to live under, or the fear at any point that it can come off of major TV and be pay-per-view only? I'd take it. Give me 2 glorious years, Dan. I'd take it.
Something I've learned in the boxing world is you got to just go year to year. You almost have to just go. It's just waves. You have to ride the waves. It's not a sport like the NBA. It's not a sport like the NFL where you have 7-year deals and you know that they're not going anywhere. That's the freaking NBA. Boxing doesn't have that. So if you have some structure, if you have some type of schedule in place where you have these 4 majors, or you have a little more balanced of a schedule, you have to embrace it, and then you have to see where it gets a little crazy, because it certainly can get there. The Ali Act has been in place for 20 plus years. I don't think it's ever fully enforced. I've never heard a promoter actually use it. It's just something that gets floated out there, but it never ever gets implemented. It's a crazy time in boxing, with the Saudis looming over it. I'm all for it. Will we see it? We will see. He is already almost implementing a 4 major thing right now. We're getting these Riyadh cards. We're seeing the first one August 3rd in the U.S. That's going to be a trial run to see how it works in the U.S. We're getting these cards in Wembley now, which was a new wrinkle of this. So I think they're going about it the right way. It's not like a full takeover. And this Turkey guy seems to just love boxing. Like he seems to be just like a freak for the sport. Like, I don't know. Does he love the sport? Does he love power? Is it both? We don't exactly know. All we know right now is that he's giving us all the fights, and all the fighters absolutely love the guy.
Right. And if we're going to, lose some journalists to beheading, where's Coppinger at? All right, let's get him right to the front. Is that too insensitive? Do we have to edit that out? Can we have fun with this? Nah, I don't know. It's up to you.
We don't edit anything out here. Lastly, Mike Perry is fighting Jake Paul June 20th. You can watch that live on ppv.com. You're excited. I already can see it on your face. Did Jake Paul make a mistake here? Because Perry's 32. 32. I'm horrible with ages. Is he 32?
Yes, he is.
Okay, so he represents one of the youngest opponents Jake Paul has ever fought. I think Tyron Woodley was 31. I could be wrong there.
No, Woodley was like 38 at that point.
I'm mixing up names here. Anyway, we'll keep going. Yeah, he's 38.
Tommy Fury was in his prime,
yes,
I guess.
Tommy Fury was the youngest fighter that Jake Paul fought. I think Perry's is a risky fight for Jake Paul. I think that it's a great fight in terms of getting people excited once again for a Tyson fight. If the Tyson fight doesn't happen, at least he's fighting Mike Perry. But Jake Paul make a mistake booking Mike Perry, who seems like an absolute nut, can throw hands. I think is going to stand and trade. Could potentially is just a live body. I feel like for Jake Paul.
Yeah, yes and no. Like to answer your question, like what is the knee-jerk reaction of all of my hardcore friends in the industry when this got signed? Exactly what you said. Jake made a huge mistake, bit off more than he can chew. You don't realize this guy's a live dog. Now, Mike Perry is a live dog. I also think, to his credit, he's built himself since leaving UFC and coming to BKFC into like a legitimate combat sports pay-per-view brand. I really mean that. It's just normally it's in the bare knuckle circle, typically against other aging MMA fighters. So here's where I sort of say it's a little bit of both. Yes, this could go south for Jake Paul because this is the first time you've got a quote unquote animal in front of you. Woodley did bring, even in his late 30s, certain levels of credentials and athleticism to the table, but boxing was still very new to him. Mike Perry actually has a professional boxing bout, on a lower level earlier in his career. he's one of the better boxers in UFC, and now you see the success he's had in bare knuckle. So yes, in truth, in theory here, this could go south, and I think that's what's going to probably make this a very successful promotion, along with the fact that these two legitimately can stir up some wild talk. And if you saw him on a Hawani show yesterday, it got weird, wild, and wacky, and I loved it. But the reason why I do throw some caution into that automatic ideal of Mike's just going to walk through him like he did to Luke Rockhold and all these other, aging MMA fighters is Jake does have certain commands of fundamentals, head movement, defense, and a jab that would it give me pause if he was going to escalate down the Tommy Fury line and keep fighting like legitimate up and coming cruiserweights. Yeah, it would give me pause whether Jake can keep winning in that regard. But the size difference here is big. I know they're agreeing to like a 200-pound catch weight, but Jake was training to fight at heavyweight. Mike fought at 170 in his UFC prime. Now he has been fighting at 185 with BKFC, but he's been fighting over his head because his physicality, his willingness to take pain while still coming forward has really just worn out other guys. I think in the confines of a boxing match with the bigger gloves, that size difference and the fact that love him or hate him, Jake can box a bit though. He can box a bit. Mike Perry's boxing is squaring up and coming at you and brawling. So I do think there's just as much potential for Jake to actually be in a dogfight, and we'll have to find out what he's really made of, as there is Jake keeping him at the end of the jab and holding a lot and really just using like the equivalent to when I play my son in the driveway with my old man boxing post-up skills in basketball. There's an equivalent of that in boxing that I wonder if he could survive and pull off. Either way, it's a brilliant matchmaking fight. I got to see it. Let's do it. Good for Mike Perry too.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a batshit crazy promotion. I think that side is going to be nuts. Inside of the ring, I think there's a lot of intriguing questions. There's a lot of intriguing questions about Jake Paul's boxing ability. He's going to be in there with a guy that's going to come forward. That could potentially play right into Jake's hands. I do think there's going to be some moments where he needs to bite down Jake and take it to Mike Perry. Love it. I just think it's a fun fight. It's like we're allowed to have fun fights. Like this is a fun.
Dan. We lose Conor
fun
McGregor.
Summer fight.
We lose Mike Tyson this summer. We lost all our summer blockbusters. You know what I mean?
So that means it's a fun fight. You can have we're getting the biggest fights made in boxing now on a continuous basis. There's room for these types of fights. There's room for these fun ones where you can just tune in and listen to two guys going at each other, and then you tune in on July 20th on ppv.com to watch Jake Paul and Mike Perry. Brian Campbell, what a guy. The hardcores of Inside Boxing Live, the day ones of Inside Boxing Live, know that Brian is probably the all-time greatest guest in the history of this show. At a time when we were booking guests, Brian would always answer the phone. He would always say yes. I would say a dozen, maybe 15 appearances on this show. We had to go in a different direction and add Chris Algieri, so the appearances became fewer in between. But when I called you yesterday, you said yes. I said jump. You said how high. That's why you're the greatest guest.
Dan. I'm not always here when you call, right?
But he's always
on time.
He's Brian Campbell, everybody. He is the best. He's one half of the Morning Combat with our friend Luke Thomas. All the Smoke Fight, which I'm very excited about. A nice new vertical in the boxing world. Some great content this past weekend. I was looking at a lot of
social work going on there.
They had one that really popped off. I think it was like a compilation of Tank. They picked a good week to start that, so I wish you all the luck there. I love the guys that you're working with on that side of things. Who knows? Maybe we'll be contributing together on that platform.
Wow. That would be something, Dan, right?
That would be something. What else is going on in your life, Brian? If you want to say anything before we say goodbye.
Well, I'm looking forward to this wild, wacky, and weird July 6th Diaz versus Masvidal boxing rematch.
I'm about to interview Masvidal. Do you have anything I should ask him?
Fantastic. Look, it's been a weird promotion. I've been part of that.
You've been hosting it.
I've been hosting it. I will have a sort of Jim Gray role on Fight Night. I'm excited about it in Anaheim.
The Barnacle.
I will say the temperature got turned up when good old Jorge Capetillo was willing to walk into oncoming traffic there in that brawl that happened after the last press conference. We'll see what goes down there. But, hey, did you check out their version of All Access on FanMio YouTube right there? It's actually very well done.
I will check that out. I'm about to interview Nice. That's July 6th. You can also watch that on ppv.com. I'll be interviewing Masvidal later this afternoon. Did some research on the fella. I'm a big fan of his in the MMA world. I saw that he has one boxing match in 2005. Had a majority decision win, a 4-rounder. I'm interested to get his thoughts on like what he thinks of the boxing world, like the MMA versus boxing side of things, this league, if he thinks this league could work, like maybe his top 5 boxers right now. I never really dabble with the MMA guys, but Masvidal I feel like is a guy that likes boxing and at least respects it.
You know what I feel like we should do? Call up our friends at ESPN Sports Center. Get me Lou DiBella. Get me Joe Rogan. Let's get the boxing versus MMA debate rematch from back in like 2008 or whatever that was.
When Lou got 10-7'd?
Normally, we're going to lose this battle, right? Because of the control UFC has. They're brilliant matchmakers and businessmen. But boxing kind of hot right now. Let's stir that up. Let's do it all. Maybe we do a modern day Canobio versus Helwani. How about that?
I'd destroy a 10-7 to Mr. 10-7.
Although he's a boxing guy now too. See, it's
he's an everything guy. He's everything. He's coming for everybody. Ariel Helwani. All right, Brian, you're the man. Appreciate the time. Good times. I'll see you when I see you. I don't even know when the big
maybe
one we're
there'll
going to
be a
together.
PBC pay-per-view again this year. Maybe we'll check each other out.
Well, all right, Brian. Thank you, sir.